Welcome to a C# Design Patterns course. My name is Philip Ekberg, and in this course we're going to learn everything about the command pattern, a behavioral design pattern which can be applied in a lot of different types of applications. If you've been coding C# for a while, you might have already encountered this pattern. So this course will cover both understanding and implementing the command pattern, as well as identifying and leverage existing implementations. And much like other patterns, the command pattern comes with benefits and trade-offs, and we will be learning all about that as well. A command pattern can commonly be identified by these four different characteristics. We have the command itself, which holds the instructions and references to things that it needs in order for it to be executed. We have something called a receiver, which is what the command will execute, and we have an invoker. The invoker is what we use to execute the commands. It will also keep track of all our executed commands. And then finally, we have a client. The client decides which command to schedule for execution. If we translate these different things into what we might end up seeing in an application, the command could be something like an add to cart command. This command then communicates with our receiver, which in this case is our shopping cart. And then our invoker could be the shopping cart command manager. Although the command manager can be a lot more abstract than this. But we'll discover more about that later on in the course. And then finally, our client could be the button in our interface. You click the button, it tells the invoker to schedule a command for add to cart. When the add to cart command is executed, it talks to our shopping cart receiver. The command object contains all the data to process the request, now or at a later time. This means that we could, for instance, execute the command right away once the client schedules that command, or we could schedule all the commands to be executed later on in the lifetime of our application. And also, imagine the possibility of storing all the commands that have been executed. Then we could replay the entire chain of commands. If we look at the add to cart command, it will contain a few different things. It will contain a reference to the product that should be added to the cart. It will also need to know about the shopping cart, as well as a way to check the stock availability. So this means that the command contains all the pieces in order for the command to be able to be executed, as well as a way for us to check if the command can be executed or not. Because if the stock runs out, that means that we can no longer execute the command because there's no longer any products to add to our shopping cart. As an example, we have this simple WPF application. It lists a lot of products, and we have our shopping cart. Now, every button in this application will in fact invoke a command. We have the add to cart command, which will add this to the shopping cart. We have the change quantity command, which will allow us to change the quantity. And then, of course, we have all the other button commands as well. What's interesting with the command is that it will allow us to check if the command can be executed or not. And that's reflected in our interface here because the buttons for a few different products, as well as the increase quantity button in our shopping cart, are disabled. That's because the products are no longer in stock. And then as another example, the checkout button will only be green as long as there's items in our cart. So given that our command manager could keep track of commands that have been executed, that means that the command pattern can easily be leveraged to allow us to introduce undo or redo functionality. As an example, if our application crashes and we start it up again, then we might have a list of commands that we executed prior to the application crashing. We can then re-execute all the commands that we had prior to the application crashing, and we would end up in a pretty similar state that we had earlier in the application.